For a long time, I really believed Amber and I were solid. I wasn't a suspicious type. Didn't go through her phone, didn't track her location, didn't breathe down her neck when she went out. If she said she was having dinner with friends, I took her at her word. If she stayed out late with coworkers, I didn't question it. Trust wasn't a favor in my mind. It was the entire foundation. Amber had that kind of presence that turned heads without even trying. Big laugh, quick smile, always the one in the center of every room. In the beginning, I loved that about her. Over time, though, something started to change. It was subtle at first, an edge to her like she enjoyed pushing limits just to see how far she could go. Small things. Too many drinks on a weekday, big charges on the credit card for things she never mentioned, girls' weekends that came back with stories full of holes. I told myself not to overthink it. I didn't want to be that guy. Jealous, controlling, desperate for control like my old man had been. Then Caleb came into the picture. I met him once at Amber's office party. Flashy, tall, too eager to make jokes, too familiar with Amber. I knew the type instantly, the so-called harmless coworker who was anything but. When I asked, Amber brushed it off, said I was being paranoid. I didn't push. I figure if you have to chase someone down to stay loyal, you've already lost. But deep down, I saw the signs. I just didn't want to believe them. Then came the night she told me about the trip. That's when I knew the dam was about to break. We were sitting in the kitchen, half eating takeout, half scrolling on our phones. Her voice was casual, too casual. A few of us from work are planning a weekend at the lake, she said, sipping her wine without even glancing at me. Renting a cabin, barbecues, boating, the usual. I nodded. Sounds fun. She smiled, a sly little thing, like she was daring me to call her out. Caleb's coming too, she added offhand. There was casual on the surface, loaded underneath. I set my fork down and watched her carefully, calm and neutral. Didn't realize you and Caleb were so tight, I said. She shrugged, still staring at her phone. It's a group thing, Gordon. Don't start. Not starting. I replied, keeping my voice level, just observing. She finally looked up at me, challenging. Are you seriously going to be that guy? I shook my head. Nope, not going to be any guy. That threw her off more than an argument would have. She started tapping her nails against her wine glass, searching for something to say but coming up empty. She busied herself with cleaning dishes that didn't need cleaning, moving around the kitchen like she didn't feel the fire she had just lit. I already knew then what I was going to do. This wasn't some misunderstanding. It wasn't something we could talk through. It was a choice, a test. She didn't think I'd dare fail. I stood up from the table and spoke calmly. If you go, don't come back. She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. God, Gordon, you're so dramatic. I didn't say anything more. I just grabbed my keys and went for a drive. Sometimes silence says more than shouting ever could. And this time, I wasn't bluffing. The next couple of days passed like the whole house was holding its breath. Amber acted like nothing was wrong. She packed her bag, chattered on the phone, laughed too loud at nothing. Every now and then, she'd glance over at me, waiting for me to crack and bring it up again. I didn't. No arguments. No begging. I just watched. Friday morning came. She zipped up her duffel bag and stood by the door. One last chance. You're really not going to say anything? She asked. I leaned against the counter, coffee in hand, and shrugged. You heard me. She rolled her eyes, playing it cool. It's just a weekend, Gordon. You're turning this into a whole soap opera. I didn't bother answering. I wasn't interested in another round of her twisting things. She picked up her bag, hesitated like she might say something, but she didn't. Then she walked out, the door swinging shut with a soft thud behind her. I stood there for a while, letting the silence settle. No anger, no sadness, just a cold certainty. This was it. The line had been crossed, and there was no walking it back. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to the locksmith. We'd already made arrangements when Amber first floated the idea of a trip. Within the hour, the locks were changed. Next, I dragged the storage bins out from the garage and got to work. Her clothes, her shoes, her makeup Everything neatly packed, labeled. No rage, no drama, just a man cleaning house. By sunset, all her things were boxed. By the next morning, they were loaded into a van and delivered to her parents' place a couple towns over. She made her choice. Now she had to live with it. Sunday afternoon, I was sitting on the back porch with a cold beer when my phone buzzed. Motion detected at the front door. I pulled up the security app, and there she was, Amber, standing on the porch, sunglasses perched on her head, her duffel at her feet. She bent down, tried her old key in the lock. Nothing. She jiggled the handle, frowned, tried again, harder. Frustration crept across her face. She pulled out her phone, and seconds later, mine started to ring. I let it buzz a few times before picking up. "Gordon," she said, voice tight, trying to sound casual. "The lock's broken. I can't get in." I waited a moment before answering. "It's not broken," I said. Silence on the other end. "You don't live here anymore," I added. More silence. I could almost hear her struggling to process it. "You're kidding," she finally said, a nervous laugh leaking into her voice. "Gordon, come on. Don't be like this. We're not seriously doing this over a stupid trip." But we were, and I was dead serious. "No," I said. "We're doing this because you cross a line, and I'm done pretending you didn't." She tried to salvage the moment, her voice rising, desperate. "It was just a weekend. You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't bother arguing. She didn't deserve another explanation. "You will be hearing from my lawyer," I said, and ended the call. The phone lit up almost immediately. Messages poured in. "Gordon, please don't do this. Can we just talk?" I didn't even do anything wrong. I muted the notifications, leaned back in my chair, and let the late afternoon sun slip behind the trees. The beer in my hand was cold, and for the first time in months, the world felt still. She didn't stop. Text calls, voicemails, all ignored. Amber cycled through every emotion: anger, guilt, confusion. I responded with silence. Around midnight, just as I was about to call it a night, another notification appeared, a voice message. Without thinking, I played it. Her voice trembled, stripped of its usual defiance. "Gordon, please, you have to listen. It's not what you think. Something happened at the lake. Caleb, he wasn't who I thought he was." There was a pause, then a broken sob. "I made a mistake. I shouldn't have trusted him. I shouldn't have gone. Please, I didn't know what to do." The message cut off. I stare at the phone, not with anger, not with sadness, but with a cold sort of detachment. It was almost fitting. The man she had thrown everything away for had turned out to be nothing more than a ghost. My phone buzzed again. Another call, another text. "I didn't mean for this to happen. Please, Gordon, I need you." But she didn't need me. She needed a rescue, an eraser to wipe away her bad decisions. And I wasn't that man anymore. Not for her. I put the phone down, face first, turned off the lights, and went to bed. No second guessing. No regret. The next morning, the silence wasn't because Amber had given up. It was because I had blocked her completely. No more calls. No more texts. No more distractions. But it didn't take long for the echoes to reach me through other channels. Madison, one of Amber's friends, called from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail. She left a syrupy message, all fake concern. "Gordon, hey? Amber's really sorry. She's a mess. Please just talk to her. Don't throw it all away over one mistake." I deleted it without even listening to the whole thing. Then Amber's mother tried. The same woman who once said I was the best thing to ever happen to her daughter. "Gordon, please call me. Amber's not doing well. We're worried." I didn't call back. It wasn't my responsibility anymore. Bits and pieces floated back to me over time. Caleb had vanished. No calls, no work, nothing. When Amber tried to reach him, he disappeared without a trace. Worse, the friend she used to party with dropped her too. Drama is fun when it's someone else's mess, but when the wreckage is real, people scatter. She ended up back at her parents' house. No job, no friends, no husband, and every time she caught a reflection, she'd be forced to remember exactly how she got there. Meanwhile, I wasn't looking back. I was closing joint accounts, transferring assets, making sure she had no pathway back into my life. Sometimes when you let people stay too long, they start believing the house is theirs. The only solution is to change the locks and never give them another key. A few weeks later, the divorce papers were signed, filed, finalized. No screaming, no drawn-out court battles, no grand apologies. Amber didn't fight it. Maybe she realized it was useless. Maybe she just didn't have the strength left. Someone mentioned in passing that she was working part-time at a retail shop her cousin managed, quiet, low profile, a far cry from the glittery life she used to chase. I didn't care enough to find out if it was true. I had moved on, sold the old house, bought a simple place closer to the city. I cut ties with every mutual connection we had. Life wasn't noisy anymore. It wasn't lonely either. Peace doesn't scream for attention. It just settles in, calm and steady. Amber tried dating again, but nothing stuck. The cracks she once painted over so well were too obvious now. Things fell apart quickly, sometimes after a few weeks, sometimes sooner. I dated too, but slower, more carefully. I noticed things this time, the small things that mattered. One evening, a few months later, I was out with someone new. Her name was Elise. She was kind, thoughtful, the kind of person who didn't need to test people to know their worth. We were halfway through dinner when I saw Amber cross the room. She saw me too. For a moment, she hesitated. Looked like she might turn around and leave, but she didn't. She walked straight over, ignoring Elise completely, like she wasn't even there. "Gordon," she said, almost whispering, "can we talk?" I set my fork down, met her gaze calmly. "There's nothing left to say, Amber." "Please," she whispered. "I made mistakes. I know that now. I'm different." I shook my head. "You're exactly who you've always been," I said, "and now I'm exactly who I should have been all along." She stood there a moment, pride crumbling, before she turned and walked out of the restaurant. I picked up my fork, smiled at Elise, and finished my dinner. After that night, I never saw Amber again. Sometimes people would ask if I regretted how it ended, if maybe, just maybe, I should have given her another shot. My answer never changed. No, because I didn't lose anything worth keeping. Amber wasn't evil. She didn't set out to destroy us. But she played a dangerous game, believing there would never be consequences. She mistook my patience for weakness. She mistook my love for permission. She forgot even the quiet ones have a breaking point. And when you spend enough time ignoring red flags, they stop looking like warnings. They just become the wallpaper of your life. Until one day, you finally see it for what it is, and you decide you're done living in someone else's chaos. I didn't leave out of rage. I left with dignity, and I never looked back.